Get the glasses on. Regina and Maureen and Roy, good evening. Richard as well. Thanks for tuning in. It's great to see you guys. Frank, it's a pleasure, and Vicky too. Thanks for tuning in. Okay. Sue, great. Thanks for your prayers. Sue and Lou. Jeff from Bethlehem. And Heidi in Pittsburgh. What's going on? Lisa in Huntington. And Stephanie got the notification that we are live. Yes. On the other side, Rachel and Robin and Penny and Jed and Carly, Brenda and Melinda. Melinda can't find my lives. I'm glad you found it tonight. Wow. Dennis and Jackie and Julie from Erie, PA. What's up in Erie? Mary, Josh Benshoff. Good to see you. And Tracy, Amy. Amy, it's great to see you as well. And Tanya in Newville. Colleen also in Erie. Wow. Margarita, thank you. Oh, I got your card today. Thanks for the pocket prayer shawls. Ruby and I love them. And thanks for your blessing. And Ephesians 3:20. That's a great verse. Over in Katanning. Historic place in Pennsylvania. I wish I could read the other platform without my glasses. Oh, man. And Mary in Warfordsburg. Wow, Mary got notifications on both platforms. Dodie, good to see you. And Mark and Burks, thanks for tuning in. Vicky, great to see you. And Kim as well. Thank you. Cynthia. Oh, Liz actually in Wichita, but from West Sunbury. Well, thanks for tuning in. Everyone's welcome. Bonnie also in Katanning in Armstrong County. Another Bonnie in Upper Strasburg. My wife's family settled off of Pine Street, not too far from you. My head's lopsided, huh? And it's still farm. Okay, get that off my head. We're gonna be cool with my veteran hat. Okay, let's get to this here. Okay. Cheryl asked a great question about the farm complex, the interview yesterday, the follow-up article, and then vaccine question. So let's get to it. That's our good topics I address. This will be a short one. I'm gonna keep it on the clock here. So, farm complex, saw the story on Wendy Bell and saw the pictures from whistleblower. Spoke with the Secretary of Ag. There was no indication, no issue just getting in. And in fact, he kind of said, well, it's kind of like maybe there was a misunderstanding. It was on the phone. I bemoaned the lack of cooperation, this past year, and he agreed. And then said something about a Pennsylvania emergency management folks, being responsible for the PPE, the personal protective equipment. So anyway, went over, and of course the guards at the door told a different story, that actually authorization comes from the Department of Ag. Wasted 90 minutes there waiting for the bureaucracy. And the longer I waited, the more bureaucrats I spoke to, the more they contradicted each other. And I would correct them, and they refused to take the correction. That's not a good public servant there. That's terrible. And public servants should not be about stonewalling and finding excuses. That's why your unemployment checks, in part, and why you've had trouble this past year, in part, is because of bureaucrats. Steady check coming in, life is good, job security. And anyway, it's really kind of I don't like bureaucracy, and I don't like being lied to. And they can find words that are probably more appropriate, but when they start, even in their own statements, they start contradicting themselves. So anyway, whatever. So send a formal letter to all the stakeholders. That's like a favorite word in Harrisburg. A favorite phrase. It's several words. Stakeholders. It's requesting access to inspect the 15 to 20,000 pallets of taxpayer-funded PPE. Now, look, last summer, September, the governor came out and he feared a massive outbreak. Okay, I would say massive. Well, I want to be accurate. I want to misrepresent. That happens far too much. Media loves to do that with me. Distorts and take things out of context for a political agenda. There was concerns from our governor that there would be a significant outbreak this fall, and so the reason for this significant stockpile was to be able to respond in case there was any shortages, and if the prophecy that it was going to be terrible came true. Thankfully, it did not. Thankfully, every worst case situation did not play out, which is great. So anyway. So why hasn't it been distributed? Why is it just sitting there? And I read their statement. They came out with a statement today, and they said they've been pushing stuff out. And why there's such stockpile, 15 to 20,000 pallets, and obviously it'd be prudent and wise to set aside a set amount of PPE, personal protective equipment, for in the future, so we're not caught unawares. But the farm complex place should have been just a temporary holding facility, and it should not be stockpiled there at all. It's absolutely insane and foolish and ridiculous that it's stockpiled there. That facility should be used for public events, and it's an important place in Pennsylvania. A lot of events occur there every year, and so they should have let the suppliers just go out the door and find a permanent location to have their stockpile. And so, according to some of the experts, there's no plan to clear out that place until probably the fall, September, best case. That's pretty bad. That's not wise planning. So what's going to happen? Here's what I predict is going to happen. I'll get in a week or so, under stringent conditions. We'll see, and we'll hear their pitch. Better off they just let us in. I don't need to have my hand held and be told a line. I already know what they're going to say. And then you're going to pay, we will pay as taxpayers twice the hauling fee. The price to put it in there and the price to move it to another warehouse. That's terrible planning. A permanent facility should have been set up this fall. And then the stockpile could have been placed in there, and they should have emptied out the farm complex as it was needed around the state instead of continually replenishing, evidently, whatever left the facility. So that's that. Okay, so you guys clear on that? So no firm answers. I was surprised to see that very good report in Fox News last night. A military friend of ours, I saw it late last night, and I was like, wow. So that was a good report, actually. Journalists, wow. And there was a contributor, so a couple good journalists. That is fantastic. So I'm yet to find local stations or reporters that don't have a significant bias driving their stories. So nationwide, there are a few. So there, of course, there would be. Anyway, I'm looking at a lot of the comments here. Susan says prisons can also use PPE. Yep, both prisoners and staff, my nephew's a guard, need those items and want answers. I agree. Great. Okay. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Wow, great. Thanks for sharing on Facebook. 1,300 live viewers, it looks like. Yeah, about that. All right. Thank you. Let's see what else we have here. So Gene suggests that they divide up amongst the 67 counties, 223 pallets per county. That's fantastic. That sounds good to me. Uh, Robert says, of course, watch parties are going away, and Facebook in a few weeks. Yep, but they already took it away from me. Haven't had it in months, sadly. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate that. Oh, what's going on? So anyway, let's see what else. So vaccination. So we're finalizing our very well researched and coordinated with the stakeholders. So we have the experts for medical freedom have reviewed our final piece of legislation, and the stakeholders have been involved since day one. And I just laugh because there's always buzz phrases in politics and stuff, PPE and coordinating with the stakeholders. But I think this is a good piece of legislation. It increases your medical freedom and protections against government coercion. That we have to have this discussion and debate is interesting to me, and that there's people out there that actually push back against it, thinking it's some kind of science denying thing. And I don't know how that there's no logic or reason to that sort of point of view. So if you want the vaccinations, get them. I was intrigued to listen to some of the studies today. Listen to the experts, follow the science, and apparently the antibodies. If you have had the virus and recovered from it, obviously you have antibodies, and the initial studies said the antibodies were only in your system for 3 months or so. That's not even scientific. That's I would say that's nonsense. And then additionally, if you get the vaccination, antibodies are in you. So you either you have natural immunity, and some of the reports are if you have been vaccinated against certain diseases or viruses, that it lasts like 60, sometimes 60 years, depending on the virus. This is a general study, not really talking COVID. But logically, if you've had it recovered, obviously, if you get it again, unless it's one of the extreme variants, but you won't have a severe reaction. Obviously, everyone has to take your own medical precautions, make your own medical decisions, and live with the consequences. But it was interesting watching the dialogue between Rand Paul today and the beloved Dr. Fauci. And it's interesting listening to a doctor address some of these hard questions. So I'll leave it up to you to decide. But I did share that on some of my other pages, that interaction, which is very intriguing. And it's important and good that we have an honest, academic, truthful discussion, and not just have, here's the only point of view you can have. The great Oz has spoken. We've had a year of that in Pennsylvania, and all it has is caused us a lot of problems, heartaches, unnecessary pain in the state. Schools are still closed down largely in many areas of the state. And not open full time. And I will remind you, using the Secretary's own numbers, thank God there has been no deaths according to the Secretary of Health's own numbers the past 12 months, anyone under 20 from or with COVID. I mean, that's simply amazing because, there are people that are very vulnerable and at risk for the virus. So it's simply amazing to me, and I'm thankful that's the case. So obviously the most endangered age group, of course, 65 or 70 and above. Average age of death last time I did an assessment was around 82, and according to CDC, with 2 or 3 pre-existing life-threatening health conditions. So, and every life does matter, and some youngish people, relatively speaking, will have a severe reaction, to this, and maybe even sadly pass away. So obviously, no one's denying anything, and no one's not taking anything seriously. That's the way that the left will try to put down, or they don't want to have an argument, so let's miscategorize by design. It's sort of it's a personal attack. Actually, it's a logical fallacy, ad hominem, against a person, against a man. Personal attack. That's how they get out of a logical adult conversation. So anyway, everyone make your own health decisions. Okay, Jill said their school is open up for 6 days, 4 days a week, and already back to hybrid. Well, Jewel and her family want to make their own decisions, as you should, and so does Buck Fix as well. Walk as free people. Rand did make a strong case, and his argument was logical and reasoned. Thank you, my friends, for tuning in. This is about. Thank you. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us. Look forward to engaging with you tomorrow. Army terminology. What's a good word for engaging? For having a dialogue with you tomorrow, hopefully on the radio. And thank you, Vicky, for your prayer covers and prayer cover, and for everyone else who's praying. And keep praying. This is it's an interesting life to be in this. There's a lot of ruthlessness in this political world, and not a lot of honor. And so, and indeed, there's segments within this game on both sides of the aisle that will lie, cheat, and steal to advance their agenda. So, what did Jesus say? Be as wise as serpents, but as innocent as doves. Isn't that fantastic? So be as wise as a serpent, but as innocent as a dove. Not stooping to the level that we see. Rachel says schools in Erie have half the kids 1 week, half the next. And Bill is praying for Rebbe and me. Thank you. And God bless you guys. Thanks again for tuning in. It's great to see so many folks here. Wow, huge turnout tonight. Praying a blessing over everyone, and asking for God's blessing on you and your families. If anyone is sick in your family, that they'll be raised up. And as Heather Foster would have it, that secrets will be exposed in government. Thank you, Kelly. I will try to get in shape the next couple months. See how that goes. It's not easy taking time for yourself to, go out there and get in shape. There's so much to do. So anyway, Amy, you're fantastic. Hope you're doing well. Cassandra says, don't let it discourage you. It is discouraging, and get this old man glass off. We've lived a full life, and we've lived 12 years out of the country. I've been to a lot of places, a lot of missions, a lot of countries around the world, and countries in not so good shape, and where there's a lot of suffering, and not, and going into combat and not knowing if you're going to come home, if and when you're going to come home, as one of my bosses said, yeah. One time we were activated, deployed to our war zone, and one of my bosses was quite eager to get his combat patch. In the Army, there's a lot of confusion for some folks that were in the Naval Service. Naval Service, if you're in a war zone, you get a combat action ribbon. And everyone in that war zone gets a combat action ribbon. It just means you're in a war zone. So in the Army, if you're in a war zone, you get to wear the patch you deploy on your right shoulder. So the unit patch that you deploy with. So you'll see that I often have my 2nd Armored Cavalry Regiment patch. Now 2nd Cavalry Regiment, but the tanks are gone, sadly, on my right side. We call it the cookie patch. It's round and has a fleur-de-lis for our operations in France in 1918. Sometimes you'll see some other patches. I'm authorized to wear like 3 different patches. So anyway, my boss then was like really eager to get his combat patch. He was a colonel by the time and still hadn't deployed to a war zone. And the rest of us like, man, don't be so eager to get into that. It will come in time. And it did. And he ended up overseas many, many years. But comparing that to the dishonesty, the shenanigans you expect it, from your political rivals, and sadly from your own team, right? But then for the media to perpetuate narratives and lies and fabrications, and to, have a cognitive bias, or a confirmation bias. There's one reporter in particular. I'm having trouble determining if the guy has a confirmation bias or a cognitive bias or a combination of both. In his, he's already made judgments on his political enemies. Obviously, you read his stories, he's to the left quite a bit, and so he's looking for things that confirm or he's so driven by politics and his own agenda politically that he can't even see that he's not being fair. And so we have tough reporters, investigators, fantastic, but do it for both sides, not just against the team you don't like. For instance, what stories has he written on Levine? Was he there uh, last Friday when we were remembering those who died in isolation in the elder care facilities as a result of the Wolf administration's terrible policy a year ago, 18 March last year, to send the sick back into long-term care facilities? No, of course not. A free pass on Levine, slipping mom out of a elder facility, semantics. It was a different kind of facility. Stop it. So why did you pull your mom out? My mom's very lucid at 95. Yeah, right. Did that reporter, camp outside the hotel in Hershey to get a picture of Levine sneaking in and confront Levine on the steps going into the hotel? Why is this okay? What about the rest of the moms? Of course not. But had it been a Republican governor, there would have been a different set of standards altogether. There've been breathless reporting, and the stories of those who died in isolation with neglect often, and maybe even abuse. Just don't know, because families haven't been allowed in for a long time. And so, the ever-changing guidance from Harrisburg and Levine, that 1 week there was 18 different changes. I don't know how you keep up with that bureaucratically. And so and then of course, the blind rage from folks. But I know I'm thankful for you guys out there for being faithful and true. And so we will stand together here. So thanks again for your prayers. We stand against darkness, lies, and deceit, and we look forward to better days. Now, in the meantime, don't be discouraged. And so, and when you do have dialogue, thank you, my friends. I appreciate the comments. When you do have dialogue with the political folks in the political world, whether it's the acting Secretary of Health, whether it's Secretary of Agriculture, whether it's our governor, our lieutenant governor, the senators or reps, regardless of party affiliation, be respectful and kind and make your point. We can disagree without being disagreeable, right? That's a fun phrase, but it's true. And as I said yesterday, Benjamin Franklin, we're live from Franklin County here. Benjamin Franklin said, it's easier to catch easier to catch flies with honey than vinegar. So his point is well taken. So have an exchange of ideas and make a reasoned case, and your case will be heard and read. So thanks again. Margarita, thanks once again for the pocket prayer shawls, Reverend. I appreciate that. That's fantastic. We appreciate and love you guys. We're praying a blessing over each of you in Jesus' name, that you'll be blessed and encouraged. Thank you, Julie. Thankful for you as well. And for Rebecca as well. You guys are fantastic. Sherry and Steve, fear not the darkness. Let's walk as free people. John 8:36, if Jesus set you free, you're free indeed. Are you free? And then it's a choice to walk as free people with joy. Not easy, but we can do it with God's strength. So thank you, my friends. God bless you guys, and see you later.